versus like listening and hearing questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I want to call the regular meeting of the Orange City Council to order for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. Kaylee, will you take roll, please?
Councilmember Grimm?
Here.
Councilmember Marks?
Here.
Councilmember Darms?
Here.
Councilmember Papello?
Present.
Vice Mayor Thompson?
Here.
Councilmember Stafford?
Here.
Mayor Blair?
Here. In absences, we have none. Oh, no, I'm jumping ahead, sorry, before somebody yells at me. The invocation and the pledge.
Yes, please.
Phyllis Bartle from St. Jude's Episcopal Church, right down the road.
Let us pray. O Lord our God, bless the leaders of our city, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other communities. Lord, keep this place under your care. To the mayor, to the city council, and to all in administrative authority, grant wisdom and honor in the exercise of their duties. Give grace to your servants, O Lord. To those who make our laws and ordinances in Orange City, give courage, wisdom, and foresight to provide for the needs of all people and to fulfill our obligations in the community. Give grace to your servants, O Lord. And finally, teach our people to rely on your strength and to accept their responsibilities to their fellow citizens, that they may elect trustworthy leaders and make wise decisions for the well-being of our society, that we may serve you faithfully in our generation and honor your holy name. For yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we're on item number 1, absences. We have none at this time. Item number 2, presentations and proclamations. We have none. Item number 3, citizens' comments. I have one speaker request form from Tom Idell. Come on up, Tom.
Good evening. You dropped something.
Yeah, it's the one I want.
Okay. Thank you.
Kaylee, you have a copy of this, right? You have a digital copy of this.
You gotta read stuff too?
Nah.
I've seen this.
Thank you.
I think you dropped some.
Yeah, mine's
Okay.
Friday. This was already.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Yeah.
Good evening, Tom Mondell, 339 East University. Recently, the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation has put the shuffleboard complex on the 10 most to save. This is the second time we've been on this. In 2011, we were on it for the entire historic district. And it's quite the honor to be put on. And what you have there, and I'll read for the public, is last week the Florida Trust Historic Preservation announced the 2024 11 to Save, a list of the most threatened historic places in the state. At 2024 presentation, Main Street Conference hosted it in collaboration with the Florida Main Street. Each year, Florida Trust announces 11. I only have a short amount of time, so I'm going to skip that paragraph. The 2024 11 SAVE represents the endangered historic resources in Broward, Charlotte, Duval. They have us down as Orange County, but we're obviously not. 2024, Florida's 11 to Save reflect the extraordinary breadth and depth of the stories that make up the culture, a mosaic of our state. Said the Florida Trust. I'm going to jump down again. Inclusion in the Florida State to Save stated a point of Florida Trust advocacy and education efforts intended to be part of the collaboration effort to identify custom solutions for each property. Listings are not in any specific order. Apparently, the shuffleboard community, the historic shuffleboard community throughout the state got together and nominated it. City council, or the historic board had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. This was done by shuffleboarders that have been here and saw the facility and saw the need to possibly save it. Again, it's tough in 3 minutes. I would suggest that we start trying to maintain it until we decide that it's gonna go and what's gonna go and what's not gonna go. The courts, the drains on the courts are clogged again. It's receiving some silt again. We haven't done any maintenance on the building or in the property for years. I mean, we're coming up on 5 years, I believe. No termite control. And it's time, because what's happening is, even if we're gonna demolish it, until we come up with that decision, I think that we make a decision to maintain what we have there before it falls apart. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Daniel Lopez.
I came about a month ago.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, this is Daniel Lopez. I live at the 800 Spring Cavern Avenue at the Blue Springs Villas. I came about a month ago. I was explaining some issues with the water. I have been in communication with the water company and just kind of talking with them. But I just wanted to see if there was any updates. It's happening less now.
Oh, speak in, they can't hear you back there. Speak into the mic.
All right.
Is it on?
It's happening a little bit less now where the water is decoloring, but we are noticing that it's happening at least either on a Friday or Saturday morning where the water comes up orange again, and then kind of does like a weird rattling noise also in a few of the toilets. And I know there are other houses in the neighborhood, so I just wanted to see if there was any updates happening with the water solution from the discoloration and whatnot.
Well, you've been in touch with McDalia's people. They can get back, if you make sure she has your number again, and they'll get back with you and tell you what updates there may be. We really don't know in
Okay.
that particular case.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to accept the consent agenda.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Kaylee?
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Darms?
Yes.
Councilmember Papello?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford?
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm?
Yes.
Mayor Blair?
Yes, and the consent agenda passes. Move on to item number 5, ordinances first reading. We have none at this time. Moving on to item number 6, public hearing / ordinances second and final reading. Ordinance number 682. Mr. Reichman, would you read that one, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, updating the 5-year schedule of capital improvements for fiscal years 23-24 through 27-28, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
And Becky Mendez is up.
This is second and final reading. Nothing has changed since the first. Staff recommends that City Council adopt it second and final.
Great. Anyone have any questions or concerns, comments? Anyone from the public want to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 682 for the second and final reading.
I second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Whoops, putting it in the wrong place. Okay, no further discussion. Kaylee?
Councilmember Darms?
Yes.
Councilmember Papello?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford?
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Mayor Blair?
Yes, and ordinance 682 passes. Move on to item number 7, resolutions. Excuse me, resolution 7A, resolution number 322-24. Mr. Reichman, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, relating to the collection and disposal of solid waste and recovered materials in the incorporated area of Orange City, Florida, establishing the estimated assessment rate for solid waste service assessments against residential property located within the incorporated area of Orange City, Florida, for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024, directing the preparation of an updated solid waste assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing and directing the provision of notice thereof, repealing all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, for severability and providing for an effective date.
Devlin Moore is up.
Good evening, Devlin Moore, Finance Director. So tonight kicks off the annual process pursuant to Florida statute in which the council establishes the method of collection for the special assessments. The next four resolutions will set the preliminary rates for 4 of the 5 assessments managed by the city. The preliminary rate assessment process is not required for the South Kentucky Avenue Road assessment because it is a capital improvement assessment with fixed rates, and there has been no changes to the parcels within the district, so the preliminary rate resolution is not required at this time. The rates approved tonight will be listed on the August trim as mailed out by the property appraiser's office. Similar to setting the proposed millage rate, tonight's rates will be the maximum or the cap. So going forward on September 9th, when you adopt the final resolution, you can't go beyond what you set tonight, but you can always go down, but that would be not preferred. So the first assessment is the solid waste assessment. The solid waste program was established in 2007. The annual assessment for tax year 2023 was $189.80. In April 2024, the City Council approved a 3.4% CPI increase to the city's solid waste hauler, GFL. The proposed assessment for tax year 2024 is $198.15 annually. This takes into account the CPI increase provided to GFL, as well as some other operating increases within this respected fund. Staff recommends that council approve resolution number 322-24, adopting a preliminary rate for the solid waste assessment for tax year 2024.
Thank you. Any questions for Devlin? Okay, so anyone from the public have any questions? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 322-24, adopting the preliminary rate resolution for fiscal year 24-25, tax year 2024, solid waste service assessment.
I'll second.
Got a motion, got a second. No further discussion. Kaylee?
Councilmember Papello?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford?
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Darms?
Yes.
Mayor Blair?
Yes, and resolution number 322-24 passes. Move on to 7B, resolution number 323-24. Mr. Reichman?
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, relating to the provision of stormwater management services in the incorporated area of Orange City, Florida, estimating the cost of stormwater management services provided by the city, establishing the method of charging the cost of stormwater management services against the real property that will be benefited and served thereby, directing preparation of an updated stormwater service assessment, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, repealing all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, Devlin, you're up again.
Devlin Moore, Finance Director. The Stormwater Assessment Program was implemented by City Council in 2015. The initial assessment was $11.61 per EBU, or equivalent benefit unit. The assessment program includes an automatic 4% annual escalator with a maximum rate of $17.06 per EBU. The annual assessment for 2023 was $15.87 per EBU. The proposed annual assessment for tax year 2024 is $16.50 per EBU. Staff recommends that council approve resolution number 323-24, adopting a preliminary rate for the stormwater assessment for tax year 2024.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Devlin from the council? All right, anyone from the public like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 323-24, adopting the preliminary rate resolution for fiscal year 2024-25, tax year 2024, stormwater service assessment.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second?
You might want to pull your microphone down. Can't really hear you that well.
A little confusing.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Okay, any further comments or anything? All right, Kaylee?
Vice Mayor Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford,
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm,
Yes.
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Councilmember Darms,
Yes.
Councilmember Capello,
Yes.
Mayor Blair.
Yes, and resolution number 323-24 passes. Let's move on to 7C, resolution number 324-24. Mr. Reichman, would you read that one, please?
Yes, sir. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, relating to the provision of street lighting services, facilities, and programs throughout the Shadow Ridge Street Lighting Assessment Area. Estimating the cost of street lighting services, facilities, and programs to be assessed for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024, directing the city manager to prepare or direct the preparation of an updated street lighting assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing and directing the provision in connection of provision of notice in connection thereof, repealing resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Devlin Moore is up again.
Devlin Moore, Finance Director. In 2017, the city received a petition from the residents of the Shadow Ridge Phase 2 subdivision. They had requested that the city establish a street lighting district within the subdivision. The 2023 annual assessment was $135 a lot. The proposed annual assessment for tax year 2024 is $155 a lot. This is to cover an increase in the cost of electric utility as well as some other operating expenditures associated with managing this assessment. I want to note that this would be the first increase since inception of this assessment, and all residents within the subdivision will receive a first-class mailed notice in August indicating that there's going to be a rate increase, and it'll be finalized at the meeting on September 9th. And so with that, staff recommends council approve resolution number 324-24, adopting the preliminary rate for the Shadow Ridge street lighting assessment for tax year 2024.
Thank you. All right, any questions, comments for Devlin? Anyone from the public like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for action.
Oh, we got one.
There is one there.
Oh, we got one? Oh, please, you got to come up and speak into the mic, ma'am, and state your name and address for the record, please. You got 3 minutes.
It's going to be very quick.
That's okay, take your time.
Maybe talk to the policeman because I live on East Graves. There is tremendous traffic, loud,
They-
but there's no street lights. Sometimes my friends pick me up to go somewhere and they can't even get into my driveway.
Right, please stick,
Claudia Fiskus, 2301 East Graves Avenue, Lot 7.
okay, and the police are right behind you, they're all ears.
Well, I talked to them because people fly through there at 3 in the morning. Where's the cops? It's dangerous. And then you can't even get into my driveway because there's no street lights there. Sometimes friends will pick me up at night because I don't drive at night. They can't hardly even find my place. So I don't know. I've talked to Fran about that, and you too, I think, about getting some kind of street light down that way. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, this assessment is specific to the Shadow
Shadow
Ridge
Ridge.
Phase 2 subdivision, so
Right.
not outside the subdivision.
Okay, great. Okay, no
Anybody else?
comments?
Nope.
Okay, anyone else from the public? Seeing none?
Like to make a motion to approve Resolution 324-24, adopting the preliminary rate resolution for fiscal year 24-25, tax year 2024, Shadow Ridge Street lighting service assessment.
Good.
I'll second.
Okay, and we got a second. Okay, no further discussion? Kaylee?
Councilmember Stafford,
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm,
Yes.
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Councilmember Darms,
Yes.
Councilmember Capello,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson,
Yes.
and Mayor Blair.
Yes, and Resolution 324-24 passes. Let's move on to 7D, resolution number 325-24. Mr. Reichman, will you read that one, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, relating to the provision of street lighting services, facilities, and programs throughout the Briarwood South Street Lighting Assessment Area, estimating the cost of street lighting services, facilities, and programs to be assessed for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024, directing the city manager to prepare or direct the preparation of an updated street lighting assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice in connection thereof, repealing all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for severability and for an effective date.
Devlin, you're up again.
Devlin Moore, Finance Director. In 2018, the city executed an enclave annexation agreement with Volusia County. At that time, Briarwood South became part of the city's jurisdiction. So the city took over the pre-existing special assessment district that was previously being managed by Volusia County. The 2023 annual assessment for the Briarwood South Street Lighting Assessment District was $62 a lot. The proposed rate for the tax year 2024 is $72 a lot. This increase is required because the cost of things are increasing. The citizens will receive first-class mail notice in August pertaining to this proposed increase. And with that, staff recommends that council approve resolution number 325-24, adopting the preliminary rate for the Briarwood South Street Lighting Assessment for tax year 2024.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments for Devlin? Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Devlin, and just for general understanding, street lighting assessment, Shadow Ridge, 155, 72 at Briarwood. Why?
Well, really two reasons. One is the fixtures are different.
Okay.
So Shadow Ridge has fancier, more decorative lighting, whereas Briarwood is more standard. And then also there's a difference in the quantity of street lights between the two subdivisions. So those are going to be the primary reasons.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
Do you know if they're both LEDs? Those.
I'm not sure. Christine, do you happen to know?
To my knowledge, all streetlights in Orange City are now LED.
Okay.
This is the last report I had from
Because that's supposed to be using less energy, right? But we're still being assessed more?
We hope.
Yes, but their rates have been approved, rate increase have been approved over the years, so that impacts.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. No further questions. Anyone from the public like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for action. Not all at once.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept Resolution 325-24, adopting the preliminary rate resolution for fiscal year 24-25, tax year 2024. Briarwood South Street lighting assessment. I didn't say lighting.
Very good. All right, we got a motion.
I'll second.
Got a second. All right, any further comments or anything?
No.
Kaylee?
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Councilmember Darms,
Yes.
Councilmember Papello,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford,
Yes.
Mayor Blair.
Yes, and resolution number 32524 passes. Let's move on to 7E, resolution number 32824. Mr. Reichman?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution of the Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, reflecting acceptance of the Comprehensive Vulnerability Assessment and Adaptation Plan by Woodward and Curran, repealing all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
John Peters, you're up.
Yes, sir. John Peters, Engineering Services Director, and I have Amanda Boone from Woodward Curran with me. Back in October of 23, we did a grant agreement to do a vulnerability assessment to meet the requirements of State Statute 380.093. The purpose of this vulnerability assessment is to evaluate critical infrastructure and facilities as to the likelihood that they could be flooded. It's a very sobering report that Ms. Boone and her company had completed. And so after she does her presentation, we are recommending that the council accept the comprehensive vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan, that it meets the requirements of the Florida Statute 380.093 and the FDEP grant agreement number 23 PLN 32. And staff recommends City Council approve Resolution 328-24 and that accepts, approves, and adopts the comprehensive vulnerability and adaptation plan by Woodard Current that will allow us to pursue potential grants in the future from the state, which is very important. Before I introduce Ms. Boone, I would like to note that until this evening, I did not know this about her. Much like Medallia Hernandez and myself, she is a graduate of Virginia Tech Engineering Program, so she has to be pretty good.
All
I
right.
don't know about that, but we'll take your word for it.
But I will introduce Ms., I'll have Ms. Boone come up, and she has a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, great.
These alumni.
Hokies.
Yes, indeed. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this to you this evening. As John mentioned, this is a grant that you received towards the end of last year, and we have been partnering with you to assess the vulnerability of your critical infrastructure against the risk of flooding and any potential sea level rise. And with that, we're also developing and looking at some implementation solutions to improve the resiliency of those assets. So the critical assets that we have analyzed fall into four main categories. The first of these is transportation and evacuation routes. The second is critical infrastructure. Here you can think about a lot of your water and sewer utilities. Also critical community and emergency facilities, and natural, historical, and cultural resources. So we look at a variety of scenarios when we are doing this analysis. First, we're looking at two different storm events. We are looking at what is commonly referred to as a 100-year event, as well as a 500-year event. We're then, for each of these storms, looking at three different planning horizons. We look at the current year. We also look at the near term, which is around the year 2040. And the far term, which is around the year 2070. Now, I say near term and far term, and that's what you will see in the report, because to predict what rainfall will be in the future, we look at change factors. Those change factors come to us from two different sources, including Florida Institute University, FIU, and USGS. One of them centers around 2040, the other around 2050. So that is your planning horizons looking to the future. These are your precipitation scenarios for each of those different planning horizons. And so in the current year, for the 100-year, you have 11.1 inches. In the far future, we're looking at a prediction of 14.69 inches. The 500-year, currently at 15.7, increasing to 26.68 in the far future. So the first thing we do is we look at the flood risk for each of the assets. Anything that is a point asset falls into the critical assets, but we're taking a more holistic approach at it, and we're looking at the parcel that the asset sits on, as well as the roadways in the jurisdiction. And the reason for this is you could have an asset situated on a parcel, and it may be high and dry and not at flood risk, but what if all the roadways to get there are flooded, and what if the parcel is 100% inundated? So you've got to take into account what the whole picture looks like. So with critical assets, we look at maximum depth. This ranges anywhere from a minimal risk at a depth of 0 to an extreme risk at a depth greater than 2. Parcels and roadways, we look at a percent inundation of either the parcel or the particular roadway segment. We again have a minimal category where 0% is inundated to an extreme of where more than 75% is inundated. To further look at what it means for each asset to be at risk, we have to assess a consequence of failure. This is basically a means of thinking about how impactful is it if this particular asset fails? What does it mean to us? The example I like to use is it's very impactful if your emergency operations center fails. If your emergency operations center floods, that's a problem. But if a park floods, not the same impact. So this is to look at all things cannot be equally urgent. So we take the flood risk that I discussed, we take the consequence of failure, and we multiply them together to get that sensitivity rating. And we take these sensitivity ratings and we put them into 5 categories. And so this is then what we look at moving forward in the analysis. So you have, again, from minimal to extreme, sticking with that same color coding of categories. An example here, if you look at a high sensitivity classification, you might arrive to that through a number of different ways. An example would be a school with a consequence of failure rating of 3 is inundated by a depth of 1.5 feet, which is a flood risk rating of 3. So you get a sensitivity rating of 9. On the other hand, you could have a fire station with a higher consequence of failure rating at 4, a lower depth of inundation at 3/4 of a foot, you would get, which is a flood risk rating of 2, and you would get a sensitivity rating of 8. So both those examples have the same classification, but you got there in 2 different ways. Once we ran the analysis, we let the data inform where the focus areas were. What we found was that the failures clustered in different areas throughout the jurisdiction. So here in focus area 1, you see, and I don't expect you to be able to see the labels on that map, but this is the assets that are identified, not only the assets, but also the parcels and the roadways. And I've provided a table at the right of those assets that are impacted. Now you will see a mix of ownership between private, municipal, federal, county. And you'll see that for all of the focus areas. But when we move to the adaptation plan, we will focus in on those municipal assets because that's where you're most likely to spend your money. So here we see some of your police department, your fire department. We see some of your utilities, lift stations. Lift stations are a common occurrence in these assessments to see just because they are typically located in low-lying areas. Focus area 2, we see here a mobile home park that is greatly impacted, as well as some municipal lift stations. Focus area 3, again, some mix of ownership, and again, another municipal lift station and some roadways that would be impacted. Focus area 4, few less municipal here. It is another lift station, some roadways, but you do see some important county assets that are impacted as well. So as I mentioned, we focus in on the municipal assets for the adaptation plan. And I do realize that the text on this slide is small, wanted to get them all in, but you are seeing it grouped by each of those focus areas. We also have leading off, we have some regulatory and planning adaptations that can be done to help with resiliency. And we also identified some additional sensitive municipal assets. They are at the bottom of the second column and make up the third column. And those were outside focus areas, but they are some of your municipal assets that do have a sensitivity to flood, and so we have included those in the plan as well. So where we are at today, of course, I am here today presenting this plan to you for your consideration. If you accept this, we will move on towards finalizing that report, making sure that we coordinate with your local mitigation strategy to get it as part of that plan, and making the submittal to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. That will then open the door for applications for implementation funding, and the deadline for that is September 1st. So we want to make sure that you have this in plenty of time to submit those applications. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, anyone have any questions or comments? This is a very important study that you're doing, because as we know, I think it was 2 meetings ago, it rained while we were here. I got home, we got 3.5 inches of rain. My garage floor was halfway flooded out, so it happens.
Yes.
It really does. Anyone from the public like to speak to this? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion that the City Council approve Resolution 328-24 that accepts, approves, and adopts the Comprehensive Vulnerability and Adaptation Plan by Woodard and Curran.
A second.
Okay, motion second. Any further comments or discussion? Kaylee, go ahead.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Darnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Capello?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford?
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm?
Yes.
Mayor Blair?
Yes, and Resolution 328-24 passes.
Mayor.
Yes.
May I say something about
Please.
this? You're quite correct. This is a very, very important study. And I've got to tell you, when I read the study and looked at all of the pictures, my breath was taken away, and I couldn't help but feel that our future was a little bit bleak. You know, we're getting a lot more rain than we ever have. And the older areas of the city, if you look at the pictures associated with this, it's almost as though on purpose we tried to build our most important buildings in the worst places. I don't know what to say.
Right.
So I want to mention this because I think you need to be aware that we're working very hard on stormwater analysis also, and that we have submitted for 2 very important grant applications that will go a long way, if funded, for addressing some of our stormwater ills now and into the future. We're kind of on a hold because one of those grant applications is for the repiping, or the laying of an additional pipe from Mill Lake Park to the Borough Pit. And whether or not we get funding on that through our grant sources is really going to determine how we go about implementing our stormwater master plan. I think it's very important for you to understand that we are starting to evaluate every aspect of our city's first stormwater master plan, and that there are going to need to be critical policy decisions that you as a council need to make about our land development code regulations, about what we're going to use to set our base flood analysis studies, and that I think probably in the near future, you're going to need to set aside a workshop date to go through these and give your opinion on where we should be going and provide us direction before we take off and work on this study. Once we complete that study, and it is adopted, we will need to evaluate our stormwater rates. If you look at what's going on in surrounding cities, you can see that they're taking a hard look at their stormwater rates, and they're increasing them to deal with the problems that are being affected due to increased frequency and increased amounts of rainfall. And I think that, we'll probably be in the same situation. So I really didn't mean to take you off schedule on all of this. I just wanted you to understand the great importance of the action and of the information here, and that it's a first step in further actions that you're going to need to take, including giving us policy direction. That's all. Thank you so much
Yes, you're
for
welcome.
letting
No,
me
thank you.
put it in that context.
Yep, thank you. And it's very vital for getting future grants and so forth
Yeah.
also.
It is.
So, okay, so, okay, we're done with that. Okay, we'll move
7F.
on to 7F, right? Resolution number 329-24. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, sir. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida pursuant to Section 4.04 of the City Charter, notice of election and certifying the form of the ballot for the general election, repealing all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability and for an effective date.
Kaylee Burleson.
Kaylee Burleson, City Clerk. Section 4.04 of the City Charter, Notice of Election, provides the council shall, by resolution, provide official notice to the Supervisor of Elections calling for an actual election and certifying the form of the ballot. I did have 4 candidates that qualified unopposed. It was Harold Grimm for District 1, Alex Thompson for District 3, Lisa Richardson for District 4, Dana Knight for at-large. I am calling for an election for mayor and council district seat 2. The candidates for mayor are going to be Kelly Marks and Lori Scotton, and the candidates for District 2 will be Lisa Stafford and Christian Oyerbide. Staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution and allow the city clerk to provide notice of election to the Supervisor of Elections.
Very good. Okay, any comments or questions? Anything from the council? Anyone from the public like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the City Council approves resolution number 329-24.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Kaylee?
Councilmember, did you want?
Did you have something to say,
Okay,
Bill?
Councilmember Darms,
Yes.
Councilmember Papello,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford.
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm.
Yes.
Councilmember Marks.
Yes.
Mayor Blair.
Yes, and resolution 329-24 passes. Let's move on to 7G, resolution number 330-24. Mr. Reichman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Orange City, Florida, adopting a proposed millage rate for the 24-25 fiscal year, establishing the date, time, and place for a public hearing on the proposed millage rate and the tentative budget, directing communication, expressing legislative intent, repealing all resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Devlin, you're earning your pay tonight, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Devlin Moore, Finance Director. Tonight, council is going to be asked to set the proposed millage rate for tax year 2024. This is pursuant to Florida statute. Just want to recap real quick what the millage adoption timeline looks like. So tonight, the council is going to be setting the proposed millage rate for the next tax year. This is the maximum rate that can be levied at the public hearings in September. Then there's going to be a budget workshop on August 13th between 5:30 and 7:30 before your council meeting. Then there's going to be a first public hearing on Monday, September 9th, and then a final public hearing on Tuesday, September 24th at your regular meeting. This chart shows the rolled back rates and the final adoption rates for the last 7 years. Since 2017, council has reduced the millage rate by approximately 1 mil, almost. Last year, the city council adopted the rolled back rate of 7.1209, which was quite an accomplishment. Orange City was one of 2 cities in Volusia County that was able to reach the rolled back rate. The millage rate for the current tax year, again, is 7.1209. The rolled back rate is 6.5926. The rolled back rate is the rate that generates the same amount of revenue as the previous year. It's essentially revenue neutral. Staff is recommending a rate of 6.9899, which represents a slight 1.8% decrease compared to the current 2023 rate. This is the rate that was used to prepare your proposed budget, which you'll receive next Wednesday. We are relatively still early in the budget process. There'll be the budget workshop and the public hearings. When staff and council meet at the budget workshop, there'll be a number of different options, and of course, further lowering the millage rate will most likely be one of them. I just point that out because if you set the rate again at 6.9899 as staff recommends, you can always go lower it based on that. But staff is comfortable with 6.9899 being the rate to set as the cap. So if you were to adopt staff's recommendation, there would only need to be 4 votes, and we could come back to this slide should council opt to adopt or propose a different millage rate. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. So council has a few options. You can go with staff's recommendation of the proposed millage rate of 6.9899, which is considered a 6.03% increase over the rollback rate. Or you can provide a different millage rate. And I've come with a computer, 4 different resolutions, and a bunch of other papers. Should you decide to change it, I'll be ready to run it on the fly. And then finally, once you adopt that proposed millage rate, staff is also going to look to council to confirm the first public hearing for the millage and budget on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. And that concludes this I do want to indicate that each 1/10 of a mill equates to about $115,000.
115?
115,000, yes, sir. That concludes my presentation.
Do you think it's prudent that we set it a little bit higher in case there's changes?
As your finance director, and
You
Dale
hope
can
not?
speak up, I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. The budget is quite comprehensive, includes quite a bit, and there's still some room to make adjustments. So I think, you know, I personally don't think it's necessary, but what do you think?
Dale?
I think Devlin and I have been through the budget with pretty much a fine-tooth comb, trying to implement the items that you have indicated were important to you as we gave the individual presentations and as we went forward throughout the year. So it includes the capital projects that council has requested, including sidewalks and drainage repairs near Fran Darms's back road. Off of Shattuck.
Trafford.
Trafford.
Yeah.
It includes a couple of the staff positions that are very important. And it's still got a 100,000 or so that you can look at doing something with, available in Freeboard using stormwater terms. So we feel comfortable with it. So unless somebody here has something tucked up their sleeve that we don't know about, that costs lots of money, then we feel comfortable with the millage rate that we have proposed.
The key benchmark that Dale and I looked at was recurring revenue and recurring expenditure, and making sure that we don't cover recurring expenditures with non-recurring revenues. And so there's room in that.
Ms. Marks?
So my concern is $100,000 enough buffer to wiggle in case anything else gets added in when we discuss the budget in the future?
That's just one piece. It's actually more than that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I feel confident that you'll be pleasantly surprised once you get your budget book and we have our one-on-ones and talk through this.
Because I know we had discussed, I've discussed with the city manager that to go back to rollback like we did last year would really hurt some positions and things like that, so that wouldn't be a smart move. And I know that we've always, since I've been here, we've always gone a little bit higher than what was recommended just to have that extra buffer,
You-
if you will, because
can
we can always go down.
You can always go higher. We've identified a few little funding availabilities. We're expecting maybe a few more as we finish this up.
Yeah.
But, you know, it never hurts
Right.
to go higher than you're planning. Many cities go with saying, you know, at this point, that they'll keep millage rates the same, and then they lower them. You can always go lower, but once you cut that grass, you can't glue it back together to get your turf higher. So
Right. So that's what I was saying. It's better to go a little higher now, set it, and then we can go lower in the future. That's what we usually do from what I've seen. And then the newspaper won't print that we're actually going to do that rate, right? We're putting it out there, but we're probably going to go lower, right? I mean, that's what we're going to vote
I
on.
cannot vouch for the newspaper.
I'm kidding, Al,
will
I'm kidding.
Almost always print.
Yes.
That you have set
What-
your trim rate.
Right.
And they don't explain that you're still looking for ways to cut
Okay.
it. They just do not.
So I just wanted to be clear to the council that some of the newer people up here might not know that it's always smart to go a little bit higher, so that way we can go down. And we usually do go down, right? I mean, Anthony, you've been on the council for a while too,
So as far as.
right?
As far as the figure, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at 7.2 to start. We can go down as far as we want, we cannot go up.
That is absolutely a correct statement.
I don't know, what's the council's feeling on?
You'll put that slide back up, Devlin, it says how many votes we need for
4 for 721.
4, yeah,
Which is for.
yeah. So,
So 7.2102.
You need to read all four digits out behind the decimal.
what's that? What'd you say?
All the digits matter.
Yeah, that's what I said,
okay.
7.2102.
Right.
Oh, sorry,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
you correctly.
Okay.
Because we never know if we don't know what the council wants for this year's budget. We might want to add other things that are not included in what you have proposed, right? And so I think it's fiscally smart to plan ahead, and if it doesn't happen, then great, we go down and everybody's happy.
Makes you look better. Look better when it's down lower. Okay, so that'll give us lots of wiggle room, I would imagine.
Okay, so council would like to set the proposed millage rate at 7.2102? Okay, let me fill out this sheet.
That
Whatever
is
else.
higher than your current millage
It is.
rate.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yes. Your
Oh, it's
current millage
7.6.
rate is 7.1209.
How about we
Okay.
just go-
That's the highest you can
Yeah,
go.
we don't wanna
with
go higher.
4 votes.
How about 7-1? 7-1.
You got to have 4-digit, or the whole digit.
Well, it could be zeros. It could be 7.100.
7719889
Or 71000.
to go with the flow.
Okay, so we need a motion to do this, right?
Question.
Yes.
Yeah.
The current rollback again, at this time, our millage rate is,
Your current rollback for next year is 6.5926. Your current millage
Yes,
for
ma'am.
this year is 7.1209.
there you go.
The highest you can go with four votes was on the, right there, was 7.2102.
Right.
If you go any higher than that, you need more than a majority.
A millage rate of 7.1209 is a 8.01% increase over the rollback rate, and it would generate an additional $150,000 compared to what the proposed budget is based on,
So 50,000 more,
150,000 more.
150,000 more. Okay, so that's a little
What would it
high.
be if we did 7.1?
Is that much difference?
7.1000 is an increase to 7.7% over the rollback rate and would generate $126,000.
I'm going to leave you, Alex.
I propose 7.100.
I agree.
You'll put that in the form of a motion?
I s-
Yeah,
I second.
I would like to make the motion that we set our current millage before rollback to 7.100.
All right, let me just fill out
We have to have specific language on this, and Devlin will hand you a
I'm gonna
sheet
hand
of
you the
paper.
motion. I'm filling in the numbers so you don't have to remember them.
I'd like to hear the
Trying to make it
numbers.
as easy as possible for you.
I'd like to hear the numbers on that before we,
Sure. So 7.100 is a 7.7% increase over the rollback rate and would generate 126,000 in additional revenue compared to what the proposed budget's based on.
sounds good.
Okay.
Give me that script, though.
Hopefully you can read my handwriting.
I think it'll be okay. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 300.24 and set the proposed mills rate at 1.100 mil, which is 7.7.
7.1.
I'm sorry, did I write one?
7.100 mils, which is 7.70. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't going to say, no, I wouldn't say a word.
Which is, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I do this right, which is a 7.70% increase over the rollback rate of 6.5926, and confirm the first public hearing for the millage and budget on Monday, September 9th, 2024, at making it military, at 6:30 PM.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Anyone from the public have anything to say on this? Not?
Now, understand it's probably going to go down, so
Yeah.
just, we
course.
want to make sure we got all bases covered.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Devin.
Hello?
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stafford?
Yes.
Councilmember Grimm?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Darms?
Yes.
Mayor Blair?
Yes, and resolution 330-24 passes.
Would you mind passing the motion down
Yes.
this way?
No problem.
Thanks.
There you are, ma'am.
Okay, let's move on. Item 8A, discussion and action, Florida League of Cities Annual Conference Voting Delegation. Kaylee.
Kaylee Burleson, City Clerk. So the Florida League of Cities Conference is going to be held from August 15th through the 17th this year. The annual business session will be held on August 17th. Each municipality must designate a voting delegate. So my recommendation is that you all discuss who you would like to designate as your voting delegate.
Well, normally the mayor does it, and I'll be glad to do it again if you so choose.
I think that's
And
great.
I would like to say, if that's the case, the vice mayor, you're going to the conference,
Yes,
correct?
I can be
That
second
you
there.
would be the alternate.
Alternate, yes.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Sounds
And
good.
Kaylee and I were talking about this today, and we think it's something that maybe future councils ought to just do automatically rather than having to bring it up each year.
If you both go, if those two positions go, right? What if they don't
Yes, if
attend?
not, I would bring it back to
Right.
council. It's completely up to you all. I'm happy to bring it every year, or if you would like to, moving forward, like Mayor stated, have it as the mayor, the vice mayor as the alternate, and then if neither one of those are attending the conference,
Right.
then we would bring it back to council for discussion.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so she can bring that later. Okay,
All right,
So-
thank you.
okay, have we got a head nod? We're good on that, right? Right, Bill?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move on. Number 9, report, city manager.
Oh, only one item, and it concerns the selection committee for the exterior improvements at City Hall. I wanted to let you know that Mr. Idell advised me that he was ready to work on this committee, and unfortunately, I have no authority to appoint citizens to our committee, so I have advised him given him all the materials and advised him of the public participation. David Santiago, who is our purchasing manager, has sent everything to him, including ranking forms. There's an opportunity for him to speak publicly during the selection committee discussion. It's an open in the sunshine meeting. But the purchasing ordinance calls for selection committees to be made up of not less than 3 staff people that are appropriate to either the services or the goods being purchased. So the only time citizens have ever been appointed has been when either the ordinance stipulates that or the city council, upon approval of the scope of work, has indicated that they would like to have a citizen appointment on a committee. And that's only been 2 times in my 8 years of employment here. So, you know, I'm not sure it's a path you want to start going
So
down.
we do not have to include unless
It's-
the committee would like a citizen. Did I hear you right?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
I have no authority to appoint a citizen.
Request appointment.
And, right. And I think he has ample opportunity to participate without being a formal member of the committee. If you disagree, then I think you would have the authority to appoint someone.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
but I do not.
Okay. So, in other words, we don't need to do anything with this.
Not unless you want to.
Right.
I told Mr. Idell I would bring this up.
But he has full access to participation and not decision-making, but
He-
attending the meetings and then listening to what our proposals are.
Yes, I've told him, we've sent him all the documents or have made them available. Some of them are too big, you have to go fetch them. And I wrote him and told him he's more than welcome to attend. There's a time for citizen comments at the beginning, and if he wanted to provide any comments in writing, I would make them available to the committee members. I'm not a member of the committee, so.
And what you're saying is appointing a civilian has never been a precedence with us. And there's no reason for us to do that. I mean, we're fixing something that's not broke.
You're not fixing anything. I'm just advising you of his desire, I think. I thought he would be here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I had asked Dale who's on the committee, and she had mentioned the names that are on there, and I think it's very well stacked with experienced people that can make those decisions, and I think it should stay that way. And then, as long as there's citizen participation, I think that's important, but I think that the way that the staff has put it together, I think it's good.
Ms. Marks, I misadvised you.
Oh,
And
no.
it's not a big deal. I think it works out just fine. That instead of Becky Mendez being a member, it is Joe Ruiz.
Okay,
Who
still.
I think.
She's off the hook.
Am I correct?
She's good with that.
Yeah, so.
But these
you know,
people are very well-
Joe has been very important in the scoping work that was
Can you
done.
name the people that are on the committee so the
Yes,
council can?
it is John Peters, Glenn Perino, who's our building official and extremely knowledgeable about all building things, Joe Ruiz, who is our deputy director, and Christine Davis. And I think David sits as an ex officio member who puts together the minutes and assembles all the ranking forms.
So the citizens still gets to put their feedback in at their time when they're able to speak.
During
But this way-
citizen participation.
Okay, great.
This is a
Very
public meeting.
similar.
It's a sunshine meeting.
Yeah.
And my understanding, Dale, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just a purchasing committee. They're going to make a recommendation. So this is, will not, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there'll be another bite at the apple for the public.
It'll go to you
Right.
ultimately. So,
Plenty
you
of
know, they will
opportunities.
have one or more meetings, and then they make a recommendation to council which is another world of opportunity for citizens to participate.
Should be enough.
That's good. Sounds good to me. Everybody okay with that? Yes. Okay, anything else?
Thank you. Very good point.
Any questions or comments for the city manager from anybody? Seeing none, we'll move on to the city clerk's report.
I have no report at this time.
Okie dokie. City attorney's report.
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
All right, good job.
Yes.
Good job. New business. Any new business? Seeing none, we'll just move right along. Approval of minutes. I don't need to do that. Council comments. Anyone have a council comment tonight? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody who came out to the Betsy Ross dedication and memorial. It was a great event. It's interesting how the tie-in between Amelia Earhart, Betsy Ross, Susan B. Anthony, the Dickinson family who donated that land, all sort of intertwined. It's an interesting bit of history. I suggest everybody look it up. But it was a great event, and the extra was the Spruce Creek Fly-In that Kaylee had hooked us up with. People that went in on formation and did the loop, went back and did that. One of the Volusia County commissioner was there. Volusia County historical people were there. Also, I'd like to make mention of 99s, which is also tied into the person that started the whole thing, Opal Coons. She was a part of that all-female flying club and only broke away because she wanted a sort of paramilitary type flying female outfit that we got to have over here at the Compass Landing now, apartments, that area. So that was a great event. I appreciate everybody coming. I was honored to be picked by the mayor of Ormond Beach to fill in a higher position in TPO, and that is the executive branch. So I'll be attending those meetings also, and we'll be filling you guys in on the executive side of the TPO, along with, I'm still with the regular TPO. So other than that, I appreciate everybody coming. Thanks to our hardworking staff that was out there on a hot day. The police, firefighter, Parks and Rec, thank you everybody for all your participation and hard work.
And the donuts.
Oh, my
I didn't
gosh.
get any.
All right, anyone else have anything?
I do, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was just a little bit of data that came across in the Comprehensive Vulnerability Asset and an Adaptation Plan. And it was a reference point, and it was on table 314. It was asset number 3. And it made me think about sitting here years ago and having a particular citizen who always sat in the back. And it was Dottie's Dolls. Dottie Pomeroy.
The cookie
so-
lady. The cookie lady?
Yes.
Right? And so when I saw that, it made me think about one of the wonderful citizens that always found time to participate and be involved with her community. And so what a really a nice bit of there was a lot of very important information in that about where we are vulnerable and moving forward, how we can be better positioned. And I know that we're just on the beginning of that journey, but that one particular point was really special. Thank you.
Dottie sold her cookies at our flea market we have here,
yes.
and I truly miss her, as well as her Finnish almond cookies that were just absolutely wonderful. But we also have a few people in the audience tonight that come to every one of our meetings, and I would like to acknowledge them and thank them very much that
Yeah.
they have a good community participation. You guys
Thank
know
you.
who you are out there, and we
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, with that, I think we're at the end of our agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?